Hey everybody, Corey here coming at you with another knife review. Today we are taking a look at the Todd Begg Steelcraft Series full-size Bodega. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I'm sorry it's been a minute, but I try to put out knife-related content on a regular basis. This is going to be a quick review. It's what I'm comfortable with, and I feel like I can say what needs to be said relatively quickly. So first of all, we're still going to do the usual size comparisons. Here it is against your Ontario knives. We're at number 2. Did I say this was a big knife? This is a big knife. Here it is next to the ProTech Knives Malibu. Here it is next to the Spyderco PM2. Again, dwarfing the PM2. And then finally, last but not least, here it is next to a Chris Reeve Knives large Sebenza. So we're still seeing how large the Bodega is. Now let's talk about the Bodega. Let's talk about what comes first. Don't mind some of the scratches or whatever you might see here. I did get this on the secondary. These are pretty hard to get, and you do have to get them on the secondary at this point. But it's a really cool piece, so I wanted to talk about it because I know a lot of people have wanted these regardless of how hard they are to get. So I just wanted to put my opinions out there. First of all, let's just talk about the elephant in the room. This is beautiful. This is ridiculous. I believe the price point that these retailed for was around $350. And you know what? Considering they were made by Rayot and just the work that has been done, the details of this knife were exactly what drew me to it. The rounded edges, the knurled spine, this beautiful diamond patterned machining, and the anodization. This is just, it's an absolutely gorgeous piece. These come in a bunch of different configurations and even a bunch of different milling patterns, which again, it's absolutely amazing. So if you were thinking about getting this because it was pretty, I can promise you it is as pretty as you think it is. Next up, let's talk about the fit and finish on this thing. This is really good. This is one of those glassy, smooth knives. The action, it could be a little bit speedier, I will say, and we'll talk about why. It's primarily because this thing is a honker. This is one of the heaviest, biggest knives ever, from the handle to the blade, and you know what? It's just not gonna fly open. I think he has tuned it about as well as you possibly could for a knife this size, but if you're used to handling big, heavy folders, you probably know going into this that you're not gonna get something that's like the snappiest deployment. So I will say that. In terms of fidgeting though, you've got the fuller, so you can spidey flick it. You can do all the crazy stuff, but really, spidey flick and a regular flip is really what you want to do here. You can either just flick it back like that, or you can push button it. And right there, let's just take a look at that. We'll push button that one more time. Boom. Look at where my finger lands. Look at where my finger landed. Look at this beautiful, smooth ramp, this nice ramp that he had put in here. You might think that's stupid. You might not have even noticed that. You might think I'm talking about nothing, but if you have ever had a flipper that is meant to be push button opened, and you find, if you've ever had one where the landing zone is extremely uncomfortable, you'll know why this is here. You will understand why this is here, and it really makes a huge difference when you're flipping the knife. So fidgeting, not too bad, but again, you're going to deal with a big old thwack, and it's never going to be very fast. Okay, so let's stop talking about fidgeting. Let's focus on the things that most people care about. Again, going back to fit and finish. Oh, it's so good. It's so good, and I miss the days looking at this now. Right, manufactured by Rayot. If you know anything about Rayot, you know that they're basically the #1 Chinese OEM when it comes to just fit and finish, quality, overall build quality. Everything they do is gold. But even for Rayot, you don't get to see a lot of this anymore. And I know that it's based on the designer and the price point that they want to set, but this milling, this anodization, this milling, the knurled full backspacer, the fact that this came in around $350 in today's market, that's crazy. These would easily go at $450 like nobody's business with everything that they've got going on in today's market. So you know what? Everything fits together beautifully. Everything is finished beautifully. I could not find any imperfections on this knife that were not a result of the guy who owned it before me, right? You know, a couple of scratches here or there, whatever the case might be. The finish, the anodization, the machining on all of the diamond pattern, the knurling on the back spacer, the bevel on the blade is just perfect from heel to tip. It's astounding that you are not losing anything. Okay, this is one of those knives where I say, you know what, it's worth every dollar. That's all there is to it. It really is worth every dollar. Furthermore, let's take a look at this. You know what? I thought this was a hollow grind. It might be a hollow grind. That's a hollow grind. Yep. So this is a hollow grind. So even though this is pretty thick blade stock, and I think it's 0.16 inches thick, it actually cuts pretty darn well. It was not hard to get this thing hair popping sharp, and you know what? It does kind of glide through cardboard. Now, it's still never going to be as good as something that, you know, has a thinner stock thickness and in a more aggressive grind, but at the same time, knives this thick usually don't cut this well. So I will say that. It's actually a better cutter than it seems. I think the pocket clip is beautiful. It's quite functional. It's not too stiff. It's not too loose. It's good in that regard. And then the one thing I have to talk about, because it needs to be said, okay? From a design perspective, I love it. I think it's beautiful. Some people might say it looks like a gas station knife. If you feel that way, you don't have to buy it, right? But if this looks like it's up your alley, it's probably up your alley. However, there's one thing on this knife that just ruins it for me. And now, I say that with the caveat of this is still going to stay in my collection forever, okay? Keep that in mind. To a lesser degree, the jimping up here. This jimping is effective. Okay, it's gonna keep your finger in place, but man, those big old teeth with those wide gaps and those fine points on top, this thing is never ever gonna be comfortable. It just isn't gonna be comfortable unless you have gloves. Okay, and I don't want to get into the history of the knife entirely, but apparently it was inspired by his love for motorcycles. I don't know if there's, you know, some kind of assumption that this should be your motorcycle knife and you're going to have motorcycle gloves on while you use this knife, and that's why the jimping is fine. But I tell you what, for the 99% of people who aren't going to be wearing gloves while they have this knife, it's just not comfortable. Can you tolerate it? Yeah. Can you cut open a few boxes with it? You're going to walk away fine. Yeah, but if you're actually using this as your knife, your work knife, and you're going to be using this for hours at a time, it's just not going to be good, you know, without gloves on. Now, that being said, that's the second worst part, okay? This. Oh, the jimping on the lock bar. You know what? It's not too bad when you're going to disengage it, but I'm not here to talk about fidgeting. I'm here to talk about using. Okay, so you grab this knife, right? And I was complaining about my thumb, but man, oh man, does that jimping on the lock bar just devour your hand. It is so uncomfortable. And I'm not going to beat that point to death. I think it should be pretty obvious. I mean, those are basically like teeth. And I get that maybe it's part of the aesthetic, right? Because there's jimping here. For the record, this doesn't bother me because it's not really where my hand lays, but you got the jimping here, you got the jimping here, you got the jimping here. Maybe it was just, okay, we want to keep the aesthetic. We want the jimping all over the knife. That's fine, kind of, from an art form perspective. But from a functional perspective, this is just painful. Like, even if you had gloves on, this thing's not going anywhere in your hand, so I just can't see any argument for this kind of jimping to be here on a knife that's actually intended to really be used. That being said, with how beautiful this thing is, well, it's up for debate whether or not the intent was for this to be used or to be shown off to your friends. Overall, it's just an amazing knife, really. Objectively, yes, it's very heavy, it's very big, it feels like you're carrying another phone in your pocket while you're walking around with this thing. But aside from the jimping, these rounded edges, it's so comfortable. The hollow grind on a thick blade is exactly what you need to make sure that a thick blade can still be functional and still cut things. Oh, by the way, this is a full forward finger choil, so if you really want to get up in there like this, you can. Totally comfortable, doesn't hurt at all. It's everything I would want a knife to be. It's beautiful. It's unique. It's functional in every regard except for the jimping. It's a showpiece. It's absolutely awesome. And you know what? If you can pick one up for, gosh, 350, maybe even 400. This is the kind of knife I'd say, you know what? I don't care if it retailed for 350. They're so limited. They're so hard to get. If you can find this for 400 and you just love it, go get it. I mean, this is a really great one. Guys, that's all I have to say today about the Todd Craft Steelcraft series full-size Bodega. And by the way, Todd Begg does custom knives, and I believe he still does make Bodegas on occasion, but the Steelcraft series is what denotes that this was made, it's the production version made by Rat. Okay? Just wanted to put that in there. So, guys, it's been a while. I missed you all. Hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you next time.